child has lost her mom. And y'all want to pretend that it is okay. I am asking if there is anyone that will stand for the very...
A routine Judiciary Committee markup exploded into chaos after Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett delivered an emotional speech over a fatal ICE shooting, challenged Republicans to show what she called decency and courage, quoted an expletive that immediately sparked outrage, and triggered a heated exchange as Democrats accused the GOP of focusing more on her language than the death of a mother. Here's what happened.
Into fatal ICE shooting.
The gentlelady from Texas is recognized to strike the last word.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd ask to strike the last words.
Gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you so much. It is so hard to sit here sometimes because I didn't come to Congress to write laws or to do things that are hurting people. I'm just asking if there's any decency or heart or courage on that side of the aisle. The fact that a woman was killed, she was shot in her head, and y'all are pretending like nothing happened. I remember when Charlie Kirk got killed. Do you remember what our response was? Our response wasn't to sit there and pretend like it was okay. Is it okay because you have a badge? Because the last time I checked, allegedly no one is above the law. Can y'all not just have a little bit of courage and humanity? A child. A child has lost her mom. And y'all want to pretend that it is okay. I am asking if there is anyone that will stand for the very people that elected us and sent us to Congress. You tell us things like, well, the immigrants are bad. And so we got to get all these bills because the immigrants are the ones that are causing the harm, they're bringing the crime. The mayor of Minneapolis told y'all to get the fuck out. Yet y'all are the ones, it is this administration that is bringing crime to their streets. That's what's happening.
It's the third incident where somebody has dropped an F-bomb in this committee, including the video.
I'm sorry.
Including the video that we had to watch earlier.
Are your princess ears okay?
Is it profanity?
The committee's ears
House of Representatives.
The committee
are about the fact that a woman.
Are you
House
soft?
of Representatives.
The gentlelady.
Are we offending your princess ears? Are they that soft?
All members will.
Maybe some of the kids out there.
Mr. Chairman, it is the gentlelady's time.
You're killing them.
Kids.
It is the gentlelady's time. Let's let her have her time.
It is the gentlelady's time. Would you stop the clock for a moment? Okay, and I'll restore that. The chair will remind all members that the person controlling the time is not to be unreasonably interrupted. We would further admonish that whenever possible to express the full meaning of something, it be done so without an expletive that may be offensive to people here in the audience or those who watch this on television. I understand that a quote at times is essential, but I would admonish everyone that it has been the practice of this committee for the many years I've been here to use such things as F-bomb in order to get the message out without actually using the word. Notwithstanding that, the gentlelady will be recognized for this time plus an additional 20 seconds. The gentlelady may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Long story short, we are sitting in judiciary and no one on that side of the aisle seems to care that this particular person, whose name we don't know at this point, became the judge, jury, and executioner. I don't know how you square that. And then we're sitting here literally in markup for a bail funds bill. When I first ran for office, it was in the midst of yet another lynching by law enforcement in Minneapolis. At that time, it was George Floyd. I remember working as a pro bono criminal defense attorney to help protesters that were being arrested. There were more than 600 protesters that were arrested in Dallas. There were churches that came together to make sure that there were bail funds. There were nonprofit organizations, and to explain how it works for bail, since we're in judiciary and we're writing the laws, and some people may not understand this, but those bail funds, those nonprofit organizations are not the ones that determine whether or not somebody gets bail. What they do is they help out poor people, which I know y'all are not interested in either, but they help out people that aren't rich and famous and have limitless amounts of money, like all of the Epstein defendants who somehow y'all can't find, even though y'all went and got Maduro. But it helps out those people to be able to get out of jail. Many of those people that if they spend just a couple of days in jail will then be thrust into straight up poverty because they will lose everything. Why it is that you want to criminalize people such as churches that are trying to help the poor because they understand what the Bible says, and they don't just say that they understand it or say that they love Jesus, but they decide that they actually put it into works because faith without works is dead. That is wrong too. And I'm here to tell you that there's gonna be a lot of nonprofit organizations that are gonna step up in this moment, because there are gonna be protests around this entire country because of the state-sanctioned execution that we all saw unfold, unless there is some kind of justice that takes place and we get the name of that officer and that officer is prosecuted. So I ask that law enforcement, we have oversight over them. I am the oversight ranker. Let's go ahead. In fact, I make a motion that we have a hearing in the oversight subcommittee as it relates to this particular issue and what took place.
The gentlelady was not recognized for purposes of motions. Does anyone else seek recognition? Seeing no others.
Drawing on her own experience as a former criminal defense attorney, Crockett reflected on assisting protesters who were arrested during demonstrations following George Floyd's death. She argued that bail funds often prevent families from falling into financial ruin after even a short stay in jail, and questioned why lawmakers would target organizations attempting to provide that assistance. She concluded by warning that the controversy surrounding the fatal ICE shooting would likely fuel additional protests unless authorities conducted a transparent investigation. She called for congressional oversight hearings into the incident, arguing that Congress has a responsibility to examine the actions of federal law enforcement agencies when deadly force is used. The debate illustrated two very different priorities inside the committee. One side focused heavily on standards of decorum and appropriate language during congressional proceedings. The other argued that the larger issue was accountability for the fatal shooting itself and questioned whether procedural objections were distracting from that discussion. Whatever viewers think about Crockett's rhetoric or the objections it drew, the hearing highlighted how quickly congressional debates over immigration enforcement and policing can shift from legislative details to broader questions about justice, oversight, and public trust. It also underscored how emotionally charged these issues remain, with even brief exchanges becoming flashpoints in the larger national debate. What began as a routine House Judiciary Committee markup quickly turned into one of the day's most emotional and contentious moments. Rather than debating the technical details of legislation, the discussion shifted to a fatal ICE shooting that had drawn national attention and raised new questions about accountability, oversight, and how Congress responds when law enforcement uses deadly force. Representative Jasmine Crockett used her time to focus on the human cost of the incident. She argued that the conversation should begin with the loss of a woman's life and the impact on the family left behind, particularly the child who had lost a mother. Throughout her remarks, Crockett repeatedly appealed to what she described as basic decency and compassion, urging members of the committee to recognize the seriousness of the tragedy regardless of political affiliation. She contrasted that response with previous moments when members of Congress had publicly condemned political violence against others, arguing that the same level of concern should apply whenever a life is lost. Her central message was that no badge or government position should place anyone above accountability if wrongdoing occurred. The exchange became even more heated when Crockett quoted a public remark from the mayor of Minneapolis that included an expletive directed at ICE. Although she was quoting someone else's words, Republicans immediately objected to the language, prompting interruptions and complaints about decorum. Instead of discussing the substance of her argument, attention briefly shifted to whether the language itself violated committee standards. That moment opened the door for another sharp exchange. Democrats fired back, accusing Republicans of focusing more on a single word than on the fatal shooting that had prompted the debate. Remarks mocking concerns about the language further escalated tensions, forcing the committee chair to intervene, restore order, and remind members about maintaining decorum while allowing Crockett to continue. Once recognized again, Crockett returned to the issue she said mattered most: accountability. She argued that the unknown officer involved had effectively become judge, jury, and executioner before any investigation had been completed. She called for transparency, identifying the officer involved, and pursuing prosecution if investigators determined that criminal conduct had occurred. Crockett also defended nonprofit bail funds, churches, and community organizations that assist people who cannot afford bail. She explained that these organizations do not determine who receives bail. Instead, they help individuals who have already been granted release but lack the financial means to secure it. According to her, criminalizing these organizations would disproportionately hurt low-income Americans rather than improve public safety.